Hi everybody, my name is Bianca Toledo and I'm a hybrid software developer and user experience designer in ASQ. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to move human-centered design to the heart of your software development processes. So let's start off with, what is human-centered design? So human-centered design is an approach to problem solving that involves the human perspective in all steps of a problem-solving process. Simply put, it's empathetically designing for people. Because nowadays there is an over-reliance on rational problem solving. So there are many people in the tech industry and the science industry that completely disregard emotions and human perspective from being important parts of the problem solving process. And by doing this, they completely eliminate the most multifaceted and complex part of the whole problem, which is our users, the humans. So how can we benefit from human-centered design? If you're more on the business-oriented side, you might benefit from the first point, which is that you can save up to 50% of your developers' time. This is because a lot of work that they do is completely avoidable, whether it's due to poor planning or poor research beforehand. The point is that there is avoidable work that can be eliminated by implementing human-centered design processes. Or maybe you're that person who wonders why your users are so insatiable and why they are never happy with the product that you put out. The second point is for you. You can eliminate low satisfaction with your product by incorporating human-centered design into your processes. This is because in the human-centered design processes, you incorporate their opinion throughout the entire process. Not at the end, not just at the beginning, the entire time. Lastly, we have the most important point, which is that you will be creating a product that enhances your users' everyday life. And some people who work at the lab have been here for decades, and it may be arguable that they're probably going to use your software more than any other software during their day. So we need to empower them and do our due diligence by implementing the human-centered design process that benefits everybody. This is the human-centered design process that was popularized by the company Ideation. And there are three main phases here: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. And each of those phases have sub-steps in between, which I will discuss later. So first, the inspiration phase, it's basically where you unearth the user's problems by performing user research. The ideation phase takes those findings and then turns the findings into insights. And from those insights, you create potential solutions in the form of mock-ups or prototypes. And then the last phase is the implementation phase. So this is where you start considering your technical restraints, whether it's your team's tech stack or their skill level, and you work together to bring the solutions to life. So as you can see, there are up and down arrows going throughout the photo, and this represents divergent and convergent thinking. So we start the process with divergent thinking, which is a non-linear approach to thinking. This is where you should have a limitlessly open-minded approach to exploring problems or solutions. Then you dive into convergent thinking, which is a more straightforward process, which defines specific solutions within limits. And at the bottom of the graph, you see that I've associated the sub-steps in each phase. So let's hop into those sub-steps into further detail. First, going into the inspiration phase. The sub-steps involved here are strategizing and discovering. So strategizing is when you need to talk with all the major stakeholders involved in your project just to understand the business and their mission and, the technical side of the project's values. so that you can take that into consideration when designing your product. So once you understand the overarching goals, you head into the discover step. Here, you should set up one-on-one interviews with your users and listen for their pain points, their motivations, and anything else that you can gather through an interview. So this should give you an idea of the context that your users use your product. And it can bring light to any external factors that may affect your user's experience when using your product. And there are many ways to collect valuable data. So here is a list of user research methods that you can use to learn more about the users that you're designing for. The methods are separated between attitudinal, which is what people say, versus behavioral, which is what people do. And oftentimes these two sets of data conflict, and generally we should always rely more on the behavioral data because actions speak louder than words in most cases. So the methods are also separated by qualitative, which is a user's opinions, for example, versus quantitative, which is measurable numerical data points. Generally, a blend of quantitative and qualitative offers a more holistic view of your user. And wherever you see conflictions in your data, it generally brings even more interesting points when you further investigate them. So once you've analyzed your data, you can head into the next phase, which is ideation. So first you want to start brainstorming. And when you brainstorm, you want to bring out as many solutions as possible and see what sticks and see what doesn't. In this step, you shouldn't hold back because you don't want to risk coming up with a better idea later in the development process. Because at that point, it would cost too much time and money to go back and implement something that should have been implemented from the beginning. So as I like to say, fail early to succeed sooner. And then once you come up with some good ideas, you go into the design step and start designing some prototypes. Here's an image of the general prototyping phases. You generally want to start from the lowest fidelity, which in this case is sketching on paper and pen. This is the quickest and most cost-efficient method. And as you validate your sketches, you slowly increase the level of fidelity with each iteration until you get a high fidelity prototype that you can hand off to your developers. This prototype is the closest to what the actual product will look like and will help developers code faster because of the lack of ambiguity. After everything is validated, you can head into the next phase, which is implementation. So here is where you want to sit down with your users and test the prototypes that you've created. Based on their feedback, you should make improvements or revisions based on what they say and your previous research. So once your prototypes are validated, you can hand them off to developers to start coding. And after the coding is complete, you should go back into the previous step, which is testing, and test the developed product with your users again. And keep doing that iteratively over and over again until your users are satisfied with the product. And that's it. That is the human-centered design process. So no longer should we create software without including the people who will use it.